Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Bus with the Boys Spring Tour. We are sitting here with Coach Kelly. Coach, electrostatic to have you on, but first I must read this ad from Chevrolet. Chevrolet is a trusted company that has been innovating for the past 100 years. Up to now, most electric vehicles have either too expensive, too small, or too limited in capabilities for most people. Chevrolet is committed to making EVs available for all Americans. There is a growing network of public charging stations. There are over 1,900 certified Chevy EV dealerships. Chevy has convenient ways to research and shop EVs online. EVs for everyone.
Yeah, I'm into EVs.
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
You're into EVs.
I have an EV.
You're going green.
I have an EV. I don't know if I'm green, but these EVs, man, they can move. They get you in and out of traffic.
Yeah.
There's no question.
What a pleasure it is to have,
it is.
to have you on the
Thanks,
podcast.
guys. Appreciate it.
It's been awesome. Your staff, everyone, we've been talking about it, super accommodating.
Well, they're scared of you guys. They really
a
are.
whole lot to be afraid
the
of.
other schools might not be then, if that's how it works.
If all the places as far as accommodation goes, I would give number one to Nebraska because I don't know what it is in Nebraska.
This year, we
LSU's
went to
number
places
one.
we've known.
Oh,
Nebraska,
gotcha.
Michigan.
Yep.
We went to Tennessee because they're in the backyard.
Absolutely.
We've gotten to know South Carolina a little bit, but this year we kind of like stepped out and tried going to new schools and everything like that. But your guys is like the accommodation, how the hospitality here.
Southern hospitality, if we didn't do it that way, we'd be thrown out of the South.
Yes.
No question.
I agree.
Louisiana isn't really like Louisiana is its own entity. Like there's the South and there's Florida and Louisiana.
It's its own country.
Yeah.
No doubt.
What was the experience like getting acclimated here, being in Notre Dame for so long?
Well, it was definitely a change, but it was a great change for me in a sense of, you're in the Midwest. It's certainly Notre Dame was a great experience, but this is so much different relative to the day to day. As you can see, I'm a lot more relaxed. I don't have my tie on today. It's just a relaxed, comfortable environment, and it's about people, it's about food, it's about football. And at the time in my career, this was just a great stop for me, and it's been really enjoyable.
What you've been at Cincinnati, Notre Dame, now LSU as a head coach. What stuck out about this job that made you leave Notre Dame in the middle of playoff implications? Obviously, when you left, that was a monster story.
Yeah.
Can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Well, I think that's overblown a little bit. We weren't right in the middle of it. We kind of knew where we were going to be in terms of that, but that's neither here nor there. I think what's most important was LSU and leadership. Scott Woodward, I've known Scott for quite some time, familiar with him. Certainly wanting to be in the SEC.
Tough to hear.
Look,
as Big Ten guys, tough to hear.
I know, but look, I mean, you're talking about each and every week, playing against, Saban and Smart and, the great teams in this conference. I wanted to be measured by the best, and coming down here and playing against them, I had never done that. And so, it was one of those opportunities for me that allowed me to come to a university that had slipped from its standards, having won a national championship in 19. So the opportunity was there. And then getting a chance to, be with the right people.
What made it the most difficult leaving Notre Dame after building such a...
Oh, the players.
Yeah, you were there for so long, too.
It's the players. It's always about, the relationships that you have with players. And that's always the most difficult because, look, you never leave on your terms. It's always somebody else that dictates the timeline. I don't dictate the timeline. It's the other school. It's the other university that dictates timeline. So you never get to say, I'm leaving when I want to leave. And so that's what makes it difficult. And every stop along the way that I've left, it's never been a great time. But if you're making that decision to leave, the most difficult is the relationships that you have with your players.
Talk about the development of football in high school in the South, because it seems like programs like Alabama, programs like LSU, you guys just have an immaculate amount of talent always. Like, what are they feeding them? What's going on?
Lack of distractions.
Yeah.
Right. They're not sitting in front of, PlayStations. There's not a lot of other things that take them away from field sports. They're outside playing for the most part. And, whether it's being involved in football or track and field or, training. They're involved in this game, and it's something that, they can do year round. The weather obviously has a lot to do with it. The ability to play spring football, all of those things, although they seem small, when you add them all up, each one of them contributes to really good high school football, really good feeder systems relative to, colleges that are down here. And in particular, kids grow up wanting to play at the flagship school. And there's not a lot of state universities that have that, right? Maybe Ohio State and LSU benefit the most from in-state, where I want to go play for the Buckeyes. I want to go play for the Tigers. And because of that, it makes for really good recruiting.
You do feel it walking around, like when we were walking around and seeing Mike the Tiger and then kind of walking around the basketball arena and everything else, like you just feel everybody walking around. Kids are on field trips. Like it just feels like people live for sports at LSU.
No doubt. And look, I mean, and it couldn't probably come together any better, right? Our baseball team's number one in the country. They had 14,000. Our women's basketball, certainly softball, track and fields 1 and 2. I mean, it is about not just one sport here. It's all of those sports are looking to win championships, and you can feel it. And look, the bar is high, and because of that, I think it brings everybody up when it comes to, the expectations.
Yeah.
Obviously, keeping the players in Louisiana, everybody from Louisiana wants to be here. When you go to these other states like these California, Texas, these other big time states for recruiting, how is it adjusting to like the culture down here for those guys that maybe come from the West Coast or different parts of the country?
Yeah, I don't know that it. So I'll even take myself, right? People talked, probably for the first 2 weeks when I took the job, how's he going to adapt to the culture? How's he going to adapt? So what is culture? Culture is standards, a way of life. And to me, what you had to adapt to here was simply the weather. The foods, I love the food. I'm originally from Massachusetts. I grew up on Cape Cod. I love seafood, right? I didn't get much of that in the Midwest. So here it was great to get back to that kind of seafood. But it's really weather, because people are friendly and they love football. So if you like that, there's not a big change relative to that. It's really just about, being comfortable with the standards, and the standards are about excellence. And I think that that's an easy one for me.
Having a little fun and talking about getting acclimated to the culture in that first couple of weeks. We, again, having fun. In those first couple of weeks, you went to a basketball game, the accented family. How much fun did everybody in the building have surrounding that? And did you try to fake an accent to say family?
No, I mean, who would that's the stupidest thing to try to do.
I think I would try to do that.
I would try to do it too. I would try to do it every single day.
Accent? Listen, when you have a Boston accent,
yeah,
and you're in the Midwest, and then you go down south, you're going to be all messed up anyway. And I think I have a bit of a strange accent anyway. So add another one. I think it's crazy anyway. So
you're claiming you rerouted the system a little bit. You were thrown off, meeting a lot of people from the South, and you might have caught a couple things and decided.
Oh yeah,
maybe a little nervous. You just you want to.
I do it too. We get around people in Nashville. They start talking Southern to me. I start getting it,
and you start hearing family.
Yeah,
I mean, it's almost like that's natural. That's how you say it.
Yeah,
and I'm just trying to be like everybody else.
Yeah,
and then throw your Boston accent in there too. And heck, I couldn't tell you what's coming out of my mouth.
A little Boston Cajun.
Yeah, I
a little
like
Boston.
Yeah.
Cajun.
You've had so much success as a head coach. I remember 2012. There was a lot of talk and speculation about you leaving Notre Dame and going to the NFL, and you decided not to do that. What came into that decision making of wanting to stay in the college football?
Yeah, I think it was the decentralization of the pro game, where I've been used to my whole life, like the old kind of Bill Parcells quote, shop for the groceries and cook the meal. You don't do that in the NFL, especially, the time that I would have been going. I would have been not handling the roster. I would not have been the GM. I would have been simply the football coach. And I've been used to handling the scholarships and making final decisions on, who was getting the final say relative to anything that happened in the program. And when you go to the NFL, you lose a lot of that control. And not that I'm a control freak as much as I just felt like I had all of those things at Notre Dame, and I was going to give all that up, and I just wasn't ready to do that.
Do you think there's ever a time you see yourself becoming an NFL head coach?
No,
you're a college guy through and through.
Yeah, this is it. I love what I do, and because I refound if that's a word, the relationships with the players, and I enjoy that too much. And not being a play caller anymore, I'm not in meetings. I don't have to sit in those long meetings, so I can be downstairs. I can be in the training room. I can eat with the guys, and it just allows you that opportunity to be with the players more.
What does that scalability look like? Because you could be a head coach who's very invested in offense or defense or everything else, and when you've kind of scaled yourself to surround yourself with these minds around you, like what does that look like?
Fix football. I mean, fix the issues that the coordinators need help with. I've been on both sides of the ball. I've been a coordinator on offense and defense. I've called plays on both sides of the ball. So I think just being available to fix any issues that we might have, be available for those guys. We meet every day, with the coordinators. So for me, if there are any particular issues that crop up, be a sounding board, be there with, hey, experience. This is my 32nd year being a head coach, and maybe just lend a little bit of that experience to those guys and help them along the way.
When you were first kind of going through that transition too, was it hard kind of like letting go of being a coordinator and being like, all right, let me just trust him and not let me bite my tongue here?
It's got to be tough.
Yeah, I don't know that the trust was the issue. It was finding the right outlets. In other words, where can I find myself during the day doing the things that I was used to doing, scripting, and I got 7-on-7 to do. I've got to script these plays in team, and so really filling in those voids, and it really was filled in with what my why is, and that is spending more time in the training room, spending more time with the players, support staff, making sure that we've got the right things in place for our players in terms of recovery, and so that was trying to find that niche early on, and where that void would be filled was the hardest part.
God.
When these guys from high school are coming into college, what are the pillars that you stand on as far as your program goes, and how do you implement that on guys that are 17, 18 years old, especially the early enrollee guys?
Yeah, consistency and approach in terms of the day-to-day, in terms of, look, this is about graduating our players and playing for championships. How do we get you there? Mm-hmm. And really working on what are those things that will help you, like attention to detail, having good habits, being reliable. You've been in an NFL locker room. I mean, what does everybody want? Just be on time.
Yeah.
Be a good teammate. Those are standards that are not that hard, and sometimes we make it harder than it is. So really just giving them the basic principles of, good values on a day-to-day basis and being consistent with it, and making sure that we apply those every single day. And those are really the most important.
I know we have to let you go here soon because you're about to go to a sports science meeting.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to ask you about. Like, how do you implement the sports science? Because when we were talking about before the podcast, we were talking about how it's misunderstood and everything else.
Yep.
How do you use sports science as a tool and not the end all be all, like some people can kind of misconstrue or look into it too much?
Yeah, so my job is to put together in this building a high performance team for our student athletes, right? And so that high performance team touches our student athletes from, mental performance training to nutrition to strength and conditioning, to understanding what their sleep patterns are with Aura. And so all of that touches them, but we want it to be collaborative, right? We want them all working together, not separately. So sports science is that delivery system for human performance. And sometimes they're all working in separate areas and they don't want to share their work. And so just getting them under one umbrella and making sure that they're working together cohesively. And I think that that's a competitive advantage. And if you're able to do that and deliver it the right way, I think those are things that you can do to be just a step ahead.
I love that.
Coach, we appreciate your time.
Thanks,
Amazing
guys.
facility. Everything is top notch.
Appreciate it.
And the
Seriously,
hospitality is
people are
seriously
awesome.
unreal.
Great to spend some time with you guys, and
Yeah.
we look forward to seeing you in the fall.
Yeah,
yeah.
yes,
We
sir.
will be
Hey,
back.
we would love
You're
to
back.
come to a night game.
You,
we would love
it's-
to come to a night
listen,
game.
it lives up to the hype. I'm going to tell you that.
Yes, we can
Hey,
tell. We can
We're in.
tell.
Just let you know, we're in. You made a big mistake offering that.
Thanks, guys.